In today's video, we're going to be talking all about master's entry nursing programs. We're going to talk a little bit about the programs, who they would be applicable for, and give you some things to think about if you are trying to decide between one of these programs, an Accelerated BSN, an ADN, all of that. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Liz. I'm a family nurse practitioner, and on this channel I make videos about nursing, mom things, all things, and have a weekly vlog as well talking about just my life in and out of work as an FNP. I do want to give the disclaimer here real quick that I have never been in a master's entry program in nursing. I did an accelerated BSN back when I got my bachelor's. My original degree was in neuropsychology. So I do not have personal experience with these programs. However, I have talked with many people who have done them. I've researched them. I've actually talked to admissions people from these programs. So I feel like I have somewhat of an understanding. However, I would love your input if you have been in these programs. If you left some comments down below, that would be so helpful because your experience is obviously firsthand and that's awesome. All right, so what are these programs? They come with all different names. Some are master's entry level nursing practice. There's a lot of different names, but the gist is to take you from a degree in something else and spit you out with an MSN, your Master's of Science in Nursing. That will then allow you to take the NCLEX, which is the certifying board exam for nurses, and become a registered nurse. Most of these programs are going to take you from a bachelor degree in something else like psychology and then spit you out with the MSN. And some of them are even going to take you from an associate's in something to your MSN, but those are much less common. In order to get into these programs, you usually have to do the prereqs that you would normally have to do before nursing school. And the programs are usually 2 to 3 years, depending on if you're full or part-time. Now, if you're familiar with nursing, and nursing education in particular, you know that it is not clear-cut at all. So these programs are very similar in how they take you through everything, but they're not exactly alike. So different ones are going to give you concentrations or like an emphasis in different things. Some of them are going to let you be a leadership. Some of them is going to be more like administration type of thing. So the actual focus of the MSN, which is the master's work, is going to be different, kind of varying based on the program. But the one thing they do all have in common is it gives you the nursing education so that when you graduate, you can take the NCLEX. All right, so now that we know what it is, let's talk about some options here. For the sake of the rest of this argument, we're gonna pretend that you're our case study, and you have a degree in something else and you've changed your mind. You've decided that you've worked in, I don't know, as a teacher for like 3 years, you've changed your mind. Now you'd like to become a nurse. You have your bachelor in education. What are your options? How are you going to get to this end goal of being a nurse? Well, my friend, you have options. Welcome to the world of nursing education where nothing is clear-cut. It's difficult to understand explanations and it's just kind of wild. We're happy you're here, but really, you have 3 options. You can get your ADN, your associate's degree in nursing. You can get your BSN, usually through an accelerated BSN program, which gives you your Bachelor of Science in Nursing, or your MSN, your Master of Science in Nursing, as this program would do. How on earth are you going to pick between all of those? Well, that's hopefully why you're here and we can clear that up. I have a whole video talking about the differences between an ADN and a BSN program for this exact situation, and I will leave it linked down below. But let's say you have decided that you definitely are between a BSN and an MSN. How are you going to make that decision? Let me give you a few things to think about. First, what is your end goal? If you know that at the end, you want to be a nurse, you want to be working in the ICU, you want to be helping deliver those babies, that is what you want, I would maybe just put pause on the whole MSN thing because really you're just spending more money to not necessarily reap any benefits, and we'll get to that a little bit later. But if you're going into this and you're saying, I absolutely know that I want to be an advanced practice nurse, so you want to be a nurse practitioner, a midwife, something like that, then I would maybe toss around the idea of an MSN a little bit more, but with caution, as we'll talk about in just a minute, because not all credits may transfer. So let's walk through both of those scenarios. Scenario A, you know you want to be a labor and delivery nurse. This is your dream, this is what you want, and that's perfect. Reasons why I would maybe lean towards an accelerated BSN in this case is when you graduate from these programs, if you are working a traditional nursing role, so at the bedside or in a clinic, I'll be honest, they don't care that you have your master's. And I have talked to people who are hiring people to verify this. They don't care. As long as you are a registered nurse, and usually as long as you have at least a bachelor's degree in nursing, that's really all they want. They need the bachelor's degree if they're trying to, make their company look good. And your master's, okay, sure, you have it, great, that's fine. But they're not really gonna do a bunch with it. You're not gonna get paid more. You're not usually gonna get more responsibility at work. If you are in that registered nurse role, it really doesn't matter. So if that's your goal, if that's your end goal, I probably wouldn't spend the extra money. Entry-level master's programs are usually very expensive. They also take longer to get. An accelerated BSN program is usually about 18 months. These are usually 2 to 3 years, depending on, what the back end work is with it. So for people who are coming in and saying, my goal is to become a nurse, I usually say just go with the BSN. Even if you change your mind in a couple of years, you can just go back and do a BSN to MSN or DNP program in the area that you now know you want to work in. But let's say that you go in and you're like, I know I want to work as a bedside nurse for a few years doing labor and delivery, but my dream is to become a pediatric nurse practitioner. The whole entry-level master's program might be a little bit more appealing to you because they're going to give you some of those master's classes that could then, emphasis on could, transfer to your NP program later. So the way this would usually work is after you graduate with your Master's of Science in Nursing, you're working for a nurse as a little bit, then you would apply to a PostMasters program to bridge you from your MSN that you have, but you can't be an NP with, to a certification that allows you to be a pediatric nurse practitioner. These programs are long, there's a lot of classes, you have to do all the clinical work, or you could do a MSN to DNP with a whole concentration in pediatrics. I told you, this gets very complicated. In the best case scenario here, all of your master's level credits you took in this entry-level MSN program transfer. They all transfer to your PostMasters program or your MSN to DNP program, and your program's about a year shorter when you go to transition into the NP role. But there's also option 2, which is the not ideal situation, which is you go to apply to these programs and they say, that's great. We acknowledge that this happened, but we will not accept any of your credits because they don't apply to our curriculum. And I've seen this happen. I've had lots of people message me saying it happens, and it stinks. The best way to ensure that that doesn't happen is to do it all within the same institution. Say you're applying somewhere and they're like, hey, do this. And then when you're ready, here are the next steps. If you're all within the same institution or institutions that work together, your likelihood of having those credits transfer is great. That's just something you're gonna wanna look into before you start this process because you don't wanna waste that time. If you're spending that extra year to get this MSN, you don't wanna then do another year later for the whole thing that you already did. You know what I mean? That just doesn't make any sense. Another thing to keep in mind here, some of those classes, depending on what they are, might expire. So you also want to just make sure that you really should have, if you're doing entry-level masters, I just so encourage you to have a long-term plan here. If you do plan on going to and getting your FNP cert or your PNP cert, know when the classes are going to expire and know if they're going to transfer, okay? I don't want to see you wasting your time. However, if they're not going to expire and you know you want to take that next step in a couple of years, then this is a really good opportunity for you as long as you can swing the initial tuition and you don't mind delaying your entry into practice for a little. That is another thing that you should think about. In an accelerated BSN program, you're gonna be out in like 18 months. You can take your NCLEX, you can go on your merry way. With most, not all, but with most entry-level master's programs, you have to get through the whole thing before they let you sit for the NCLEX. It's not like they let you take a certain number of classes and then say you're done and then do the master's after. Some programs do that. I have heard of that, but it's not the norm. So just when you're examining programs, see if they let you do that because you can get out in the workforce and making money like a whole year earlier if you're doing an accelerated BSN. So for that reason, again, I find the accelerated BSN program a little bit more appealing than the entry-level masters. Now, let's give you a third scenario. Let's say you want to kind of do something more in like management or leadership, but you're not quite sure. This is where I feel like these programs kind of shine. Again, depending on what institution you work for. A lot of hospitals allow you to become a nurse manager or climb up the ladder a little bit in terms of like maybe a nurse educator or something in administration if you have a master's degree. And it does not necessarily have to be your master's in management or education. You know what I mean? Some hospitals are very strict. They're like, you must have your master's in management, you must have your master's in education. And others are just like, as long as your degree starts with an M, you're fine. So for this, you're just gonna have to do a little bit of market research in your area and send your little feelers out and find out what do the institutions around you kind of prefer? And if you know that you kind of might want to go more into the administration role one day, this could be great for you because you're knocking it all out in one thing. You're like, yeah, I'm going to work as a nurse for a couple of years and then I kind of want to become a manager or, climb whatever that other ladder is that I know absolutely nothing about in case you can't tell. But this could be a great fit. Just send your feelers out because I don't want to have you go do this and then find out, there is a master's in nursing for management. because it's nursing and it's confusing and the wires get crossed everywhere, and obviously I love it, but I don't want to tell you to go and do that and then you're like, hey, I thought I could do this, when in fact you can't. So just send your feelers out and assess the situation in your area. So that's the basic rundown of kind of what it is, who it might be really helpful for, and who it might be less helpful for. Now, I know you didn't ask for it, but I'm gonna give you my opinion because I have a lot of opinions and I feel the need to share them. Okay, here we go. If you were my best friend and I was like, hey friend, this is what I would do, 9 times out of 10, I would tell you, do the Accelerated BSN program. Get out there as quick as you can, start getting experience, because you might not even know what you're gonna like and love. I completely did a 180 of where I thought I was gonna be. A lot of my friends have done 180s from where they thought they were gonna be. Get out there and get experience before you figure out what you wanna do. The MSN kind of shoots you down a little bit of a, narrower path than the BSN. You might go to do the BSN and decide this is perfect. I love this. This is what I want to do for the rest of my life. And you haven't wasted time or money. You might go and you decide, I actually want to be a CRNA, in which case almost none of the programs accept any of your MSN credits because they're very specialized. Or you might decide, ooh, I want to do this, but I want to be an FNP, and the program that I want to go to doesn't accept any transfer credits, or they're expired now. So again, wasted time, wasted money. They are very, very expensive. And lastly, employers have no idea what to do with these degrees, guys. They're like, so you have a certification in leadership? Most of the time, at least that's the experience that I have when I've talked to people, or when my own management was interviewing some people and I was on those interviews, they were like, what is this? They just don't know what to do with it yet. Maybe in a couple years they will, and they'll be more on board and you can be more integrated into leadership somehow on the unit. We're just not there right now. However, you get to decide what's right for you. I have certainly talked to quite a few people who have been able to rise in the management ranks with these degrees just because their degree starts with masters. So if that is something that appeals to you, I would say you would be the best fit for this. And I have had some people, not quite as many, but some people be able to apply these credits to their masters to then like swoop it up into a PostMasters or a DNP program. Again, I know that's confusing. I do have quite a few videos talking about different things between like, what is the difference between an MSN and a DNP, and what do all the letters mean, and what is an accelerated BSN program. I will leave all those linked down below because this is really confusing. Nursing education is just a mess, so bear with us. One day I'm gonna rule the world and I'm gonna change it, guys. I'm gonna change it. I just need to gain some patience first. That's the step. That's the first step. All right, there's my opinion. Now that I feel like I've torn it down. Guys, these programs, they're not bad. I just think they're like not for everyone. If these are the only things that are in your area, like I said, they are not bad. It's a great, education. We just don't really know what to do with all of the education yet. So I'm just trying to make sure that you don't waste your time or money if that's not your end goal. So by all means, if you loved your program, I'm not trying to attack it. I would love if you've had experience with these, leave your experience down below. Obviously, my experience is just that of the people I've talked to and the different admissions people. It is not everyone's experience, so I would love to hear yours. If this video was helpful and you'd like to see more like it, consider subscribing. I would love to have you. If you have a question about all of this that I didn't quite get to, leave it down in the comments. I or someone else who probably knows a lot more than I do will answer it for you. I hope you have a fabulous rest of your day, and I will see you next time. Bye, guys.